at least 2 months since the two devastating earthquakes and numerous aftershocks hit southeast Türkiye and Syria. Millions of children remain in need of urgent humanitarian support. This is according to the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, where following the quakes, millions of people have been internally displaced after being forced from their damaged or destroyed homes. The earthquakes have also caused widespread damage to schools and other essential infrastructure, further jeopardizing the well-being of children and families at large. Access to safe water and sanitation is also a major concern, as are the health needs of the affected population. But to take this discussion further, we are joined via Zoom by UNICEF Communications Specialist Toby Fricker. Toby, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us here on the SABC.
Thanks so much and good afternoon.
So Toby, we understand that you have been conducting some work in northwest Syria. Perhaps you could take us through what that work has looked like over the past few months.
Yeah, that's right. So we've really been scaling up the response in northwest Syria because basically, I mean, this is a massive crisis on top of a crisis for children, for everyone in the area, you know, having lived through 12 years of conflict and now these horrific earthquakes. So what we're seeing is we've seen like another 100,000 people who've been on the move because of the earthquakes. They've been displaced into new camps, so new internally displaced people's camps. And what's really urgent, essentially now, and an ongoing work, is to make sure there's no new crisis, no outbreak of disease that can impact children, who are, of course, the most vulnerable as in any crisis. And that means issues like cholera. There's already a cholera outbreak that predates the earthquake, actually. And the work now is really to improve access to safe water, to decent sanitation, to hygiene services, to slow that spread and to hopefully stop that spread as quickly as possible. A vaccination campaign reached 1.7 million people already in the area, and there'll be another one running, you know, at the end of Ramadan as well. So it's really critical that we don't have any more crises that can affect these children who've really lived through so much horror.
Yeah, absolutely. You can also only imagine the psychosocial impact that the trauma has had from, you know, the 12 years of conflict, as you spoke about, the displacement, and now in the wake of these quakes. Infrastructure was also damaged. Buildings were also damaged during the quakes. What, you know, in terms of essential needs, do people in that area need as we assess the damage there?
Yeah, exactly. So what we see is people who have moved into you know, shelters, so new camps. So first of all, getting that shelter, but then access to basic services. And that also includes getting children back into some form of normality, meaning some form of non-formal education as well. So we're running, as well as the vaccination campaigns that I mentioned on cholera, on measles, on polio. There's also non-formal schooling and providing access to classes, active learning, to get children engaged again in games, in fun activities. You know, I had a teacher talk to me the other day, and she was saying how, you know, a 10-year-old Hanan, she literally lost connection with her peers. She couldn't interact with children, with anyone, because of the horror of the earthquake. And now what she's doing is she's getting those children in, they're singing, they're playing games, they're still learning through that sort of approach. And they're opening up. It's about getting children to open up again and providing some normality despite the situation, the horrific situation that they've actually lived through, and improving access to services across the board, from health, nutrition, water, sanitation.
Toby, there was a huge response, you know, when the earthquakes hit, perhaps also in the aftermath, given the aftershocks that occurred. And then we're looking at, you know, whether this has now become a forgotten crisis, given the state of the world. What assistance is on offer to help, you know, that region rebuild itself and continue, find that normalcy somewhat?
Yeah, I mean, funding continues to be a massive strain in terms of, you know, so much support is needed because children have been through so much. There's houses destroyed, and let's not forget people who have lost livelihoods as well. So finding opportunities again to get a cash assistance into the area. So UNICEF, you know, and many others are providing cash assistance. So, for example, to very vulnerable families, to pregnant women as well, to help them access nutritious foods. You know, the markets are resilient. People are able to go out and buy vegetables, buy some fruit, but they need access to cash as well. So that's absolutely critical as well. So really that funding is critical to keep the services going, to scale up the support as well in the aftermath of these earthquakes that come on top of this 12 years of conflict.
Toby, how long will you be staying in that region? And in terms of assistance, you know, what will you be focusing on for the next few days, weeks, as you stay there?
Yeah, so I mean, UNICEF has been here for years. We'll be here for many years as well, supporting as best we can to really help children to recover from this horror. I'm here to support the team as much as I can, and doing that through working with the teams on the ground to document what's happening, to document some of our response as well. I'm really trying to tell that story because these are children in northwest Syria who've really been forgotten for many years, and they're children like any other child who need support, who need a childhood, and really it's about providing this sort of lifeline back to childhood as best we can.
Yeah. Toby Fricker, thank you for your time here on the SABC. We'll leave that conversation there for now. UNICEF Communication Specialist Toby Fricker.